All right, good morning, students. How are you doing? I want to believe that you had a sound sleep yesterday night. Okay, we are going to be looking at biology this morning. Yesterday, we started this topic and we were quite fast yesterday. I want to take it a little bit slow today and emphasize more on some key points. So it's going to be of advantage to those who missed the class yesterday. They can catch it up today. And those who participated yesterday and didn't follow well can get clarity today. All right. Okay, we started with the changes in living things, and we said that living things comprises of plants and animals. Okay, and now when we are talking about changes, we are talking about the reactions that undergo, or the mechanisms that living things undergo over time. All right. And I also said that you weren't born the way you are right now. Your mom gave birth to you as a little baby. Is that right? Now, over time, you became a toddler, you started crawling. There was a change, there was a reaction, there was a mechanism that you undergo. Okay? Now, you became a toddler. From that stage, you became a little boy going to school. You weren't talking before, you began to talk. You began to see things, you began to recognize things, and so on. You began to move, and so on. You began to sit. From crawling, you began to sit, standing, and so on and so forth. These are changes that man or human beings undergo. From there, you began a teenager. From there, you move to the adulthood, the young adulthood, from 18 years old. From there, you move to the middle age, 40 years. Then the early old age, about 50, 60 years. Then the late old age, 70 to 80 years. Now, from this point to that point of old age, there are changes that you undergo, stages. And these stages comes with changes. Now, as you are like this now, you are not of the same body with your grandmother in the village. Okay, she has passed this stage that you are right now. So to get to that her old age, there are some changes that occurred in the body. That is why the skin texture you have is not the same with that of your grandmother. Are you with me? Your eyes is not the same with that of your grandmother. That of your grandmother is now dull. She can't see very far. She can't see from far. Okay, she can't see from far. Her eyes are now weak. Her ears are weak. She can't hear except you are very close to her. You need to scream for her to hear. These are changes that occur in human being as the age goes by. Okay, are we together? She can't stand. Her bones are weak. She's now using the walking stick or any other assistant to give her support. So what are we trying to say? What we are saying is that from the day of childbirth to old age, there are stages in human beings, in man, and each stage comes with changes. Are you with me? The same thing applicable to the plants and animals too, dogs, goats, and so on. Plants too. The yam plant or the mango plant or the mango tree, it didn't just become a tree overnight. It started with the seed. You planted the seed, okay, and nobody knew the spot. In short, when you came back 2 weeks time, you didn't know the very spot in which you planted the mango seed. But over time, about 3 months, 4 months, you saw the shoots. It shot up, okay, into a plant. Is that good? From there, it began a tree. It became a tree over years. Okay, so we are looking at changes that occur in living things. Why is it that when a baby is given birth, it does not remain as a baby crying for 5 years, 10 years, and so on? What occurs? That's what we want to look at. That's what we call changes in living things. Changes that occur in living things. And two major changes that occur in living things. Number one, growth. And number two, development. So we are going to be looking at the two factors, growth and development. Okay, at the end of this lesson, You should be able to define growth. We looked at it yesterday. We are just repeating it. We should be able to define development. Okay, give similarities between growth and development, differences, and state developmental changes that occurs in man. We looked at this yesterday, but I want to lay emphasis on it today for clarity. Okay. Now, growth. We say that growth is simply the increase in size. Increase in size. When your mom gave birth to you, you were a little baby. You didn't even have some hair in your head, on your head. Is that good? You didn't have teeth. You didn't have teeth. Your fingers were very small, very tiny. Your legs were very tiny. Everything about you were very tiny. But as the years go by, it began to grow. It began to increase. The number of your hairs began to increase. Your teeth, you began to grow teeth. From one teeth to two teeth. From one tooth rather to two teeth, three teeth, four teeth, and it began to increase in that manner. Your fingers, they were small. They began to increase in size. Your legs, your feet, and so on. From your head down, everything began to increase. That is why your auntie that saw you about 3 years ago, when she comes to see you right now, she'll be like, boy, what are you eating? You are getting big. You are getting big. You are getting large. That's growth. Everywhere in you is now increased in size, in height, and in structure. Okay? So growth, once you hear growth, your mind should go to increase. Okay? Increase. Okay, let's leave the body aside now. Let's go to even your church. I gave this as an example yesterday. You were 40 members in your church, and over 2 weeks or 3 weeks time, you now became 50 members. 10 additional members came into the church. That is increase, and that is growth. So growth is related to increase. Increase is related to growth. When you hear growth, your mind should capture increase. Increase in size, not just size. In anything, increase is growth. But for the fact that we are looking at biology, we are talking about increase in size. Is that good? All right. Don't forget this. Lay emphasis on this. All right. Now, development. What are development? Development are improved changes that occur in an individual. Improved changes. When you hear improve, we are talking about better changes, quality changes. Quality, better changes that occurs in an individual. And I gave example of, there is this thatch house in your village, a mud house, thatch house is outdated, is out of form, out of structure, out of modernization, and so on. And your dad felt like, instead of him to demolish this structure, let him improve it. Improve it, make it better, make it quality, make it modernize. Are you with me? So he calls some architects, calls some engineers, and they start fixing some modernized structures into it. And if you look at the house now, you can't tell that it was what it was some years back. So that's development. You can say that development has come to play in the structure of the house. So improved changes that occur in an individual. Take for instance, when you were a baby, you were always crying. Your voice was very light. Okay? When you cry, you know how a baby cries. But you don't cry like a baby anymore. Do you cry like a baby? No, you don't. You now cry like a big boy. All right? So there is a change in your voice. You don't talk like a baby anymore. You now talk like a boy. And as you keep growing into a man, you begin to talk like a man. All right? So these are changes that occurs. And when you look at me now, you can see that I have beards. Look at my beards. You don't have beards because you've not gotten to the level which I am now in growth. All right? So when you get to that level, there are going to be some changes in your body that will make the guys develop beards, start growing beards. The ladies, the girls, you're looking at me now, in some years time, you start growing breasts. Okay? Somebody's smiling. This is biology, okay? So we need to talk about it. Okay? You can see when you look at your mom, you see some difference in your mom's body and your own self. You know your mom have some hips, your mom's laps is large, your mom have breast, and she has big butt and so on and so forth, and you don't have that. And you start asking, mommy, but mommy is a woman now. Why don't I have all of? I didn't talk about this yesterday because I just wanted laying the structure and the basis. I wanted a situation whereby you just get the caption, and today we are going to talk more on it. Okay? So you see that there are changes that occur that give rise to your mom having those stuffs in her body, and you don't have it because you are still a small girl. Now, when we go further, we are going to see the stages that occur, developmental changes in man, from childbirth, infancy, to what you call it, childhood, adolescence, that is teenager, youth, and so on and so forth. So I told you that each of these stages comes with changes. Each of these stages comes with what? Changes. Before, when you were much younger, you used to roam around the house naked, but you can't do that anymore now. Because there are changes in your body that will not permit you to do what you used to do before. Is that true? Now, what gives rise to these changes? There's what we call hormones. When you get to your JS2 or JS3, you'll be taught hormones, chemicals, organic chemical substance that are secreted by the body that helps in both growth and development. Both growth and development. Both growth and what? Development. I talked about voice. Voice. You see the guys, by the time they keep growing, they'll now start having big voice. They talk with bass voice. How are you? Alright? That's the changes that occurs in a guy. It wasn't like that. And that of the ladies, you begin to grow hairs in your armpit. The guys begin to grow hairs too in their armpits, in their jaw, beards, and some other strategic and target areas of your body. Okay? So this is what you should know at this stage. When you shoot to a higher level and when you start talking about reproductive system, whosoever will be teaching you reproductive system in your higher class, maybe in your SS class, they will also come back to this growth and development, because his reproductive system is going to capture the whole of this. Okay, but for your level, let's lie low on this right now. Is that good? All right. So similarities between growth and development. There are a lot of similarities, but just know this major similarities. Both of them is as a result of change. Of course, I told you growth is increase, and once there is an increase, there is a change. Once there is an increase, there is a change. You had 3 siblings before. All of a sudden, your mom gets pregnant and she gives birth to another child, and you now how many siblings are there in the house now? 4 siblings. Is there a change in number? There is a change. Increase brings change. Development brings change. I talked about the house that was outdated, and all of a sudden your dad improved the house, modernized it, and so on. There is a change. You can look at the house and say, come on, there is a change in this place. So both of them has to do with change. Okay, I said this yesterday. All right, differences. Let me talk a little about differences in growth and development. Growth is a physical change. When you look at somebody, you say, you are getting fatter. Hello? You are getting what? Fatter. When we talk about physical is something you can see with the physical eye. You look at the person and say, James, you are eating too much food. You are getting fatter. You can see that you observed the change with your physical eye. So growth is a physical change. You see somebody that is getting taller, you just say, you were not like this last month or last year. You have added height. So physically, you can just tell the change. While development is an overall change, both physical you can say the person is developed. Both physical, both internal, both external change and internal change. Both external change and internal change. I think when you get to your JS2, you should be taught puberty, changes that occurs in a human beings. I think from the age of 14. This is where puberty brings about this development in the body. I don't want to go deep into that. Puberty brings about development in the body, where you begin to grow hairs in your armpit, in your pubic regions, and so on. The guys begin to grow hairs in their jaw. Their voices begin to change. They have different voice, and so on and so forth. They begin to grow broad chest. The girls begin to grow breasts, begin to grow hips, and so on. So these are changes that gives rise to development. It's as a result of puberty. Okay, let's not go into that. I think in your JS2 we will treat that very well, or JS3. I don't, depending on the scheme. So development is an overall change, externally and internally. Are you good? Externally and internally, the physio change, physiological change, or you call it physio change, physiological change, internal change, and physical changes. So that is why we say growth is quantitative improvement. Quantitative have to do with quantity, has to do with increase in size, numbers, and so on. Your hair, increase in your hair, increase in this, increase in that. While development is qualitative change in quality, not necessarily in size, but in quality. You can see the house. The house was not increased. The house I told you about in your village that was reconstructed by your dad, as an example. The house was not increased in number. It didn't become from 1 to 2. It was that same one house, but it was reconstructed to something of more quality. So while growth is from 1 to 2, increase, don't forget, increase, the watchword, increase. Development is quality, the same but improved, better off. Now, growth ends at maturation. What do we mean by maturation? There is a particular age for maturity. Once you get to that age, growth ceases. Your hair don't grow anymore. Instead, it begins to even wither. Your hair. If we were in the class now, I would have shown you the ogive curve. As you increase in age, you continue to grow. Then when you reach a particular age, it begins to decline back. So growth ends at maturation. There is an age for maturity. That is why when you get to a particular age, you say, you cannot grow again. No. Your growth has ended, because your age for maturity has come. You can't grow again in height. You can't grow again in this. But development continues till death. Development continues till death. You keep developing. Changes continue to occur in your body. Changes continue to occur in your body. Are you with me? Till death. So development is not time restricted. Like you see number 4, growth takes place within a limited scope of time. So development is not time bound, but growth is time bound. It has its space of time, its scope of time. Development does not have its space of time. It continues till death. That is why even your old parents, grandparents, they keep developing. Their changes keep occurring in their body. That is why there's a particular age a woman will get to, she can't give birth anymore. She can't get pregnant anymore. Her menstrual flow ceases. These are changes. These are still changes. Systematic changes, internal changes that occur, that conforms her body to this. Okay? Her womb becomes weak. Her system becomes weak. It cannot carry a fetus anymore. Our aged parents in the village, they can't see anymore. They can't see bright anymore. They can't hear you anymore. Their system is getting weak. It's part of changes. So that is why you continue. You see their skin begins to slag. You see your old mother in the village, her skin begins to slag. Her hairs begin to wither. Her hair begins to wither, begin to cut off. It changes color from black to gray, from black to white to gray, and so on. These are changes. There are hormones that are responsible for these changes. So each human being continue to change. Every stage a man gets to, there are changes that occurs even till death. But growth has a time bound. When you get to that age, you're not growing anymore. All right. That is why the popular proverb say, "A fool at 40 is a fool forever." Because when you get to 40, it's believed that there is no improvement that can be done on you again. But that is not part of our work, okay? All right. So growth dictates change in physical appearance. I've already said this before. When you look at somebody physically, you can just say, you can just detect the change. You are growing taller. You are just by mere look. But development detects change in the character of an individual. In the character of an individual. In the character of an individual. When your voice begins to change, we can say that you are developing. When we begin to see you grow hairs, the guys, begin to see you grow hairs in your job, you begin to grow beards, grow hairs in your armpit. These are characters. We can say that you are developing. So it's not just a physical appearance. Okay? Due to the fact that most of development changes are inwards. So we cannot see most of the developmental changes, but it is going to be shown through character and behavior. Okay? Through features. We can now say, oh, this guy is developing. This lady is developing. Is that good? Okay, fine. Now, developmental changes in man, and I gave you this as an assignment yesterday, and it's still gonna be the assignment, and you're gonna submit it latest on Monday by 10 o'clock to my WhatsApp number. By now, all of you have my WhatsApp number, okay? Now, we have infancy, which is the childbirth. That is stage number 1. Everybody came through childbearing. Everybody, even your old grandparents, they were giving birth to. Everybody came to the world through childbirth. Okay? So nobody can escape this. This is stage number 1. From there, we developed to a toddler. Though it's not part of it, I didn't put it here because I tagged all of them as infancy. Okay? I tagged both the toddler stage as infancy. So we became toddlers. Toddlers is that stage whereby you are crawling. You are crawling and you are saying la 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 la. You are not saying anything productive. You are not saying anything meaningful. Okay? That's the toddler stage. and by this stage you started growing one small tooth or two at the middle year. You are still sucking your mom's breast at this point in time. That's why I graded all of them as infancy. Now you develop from this stage. Your bones began to get stronger. You are growing. Your heads began to grow more, and so on. You develop from this stage to childhood. 3 years old, when you begin to go to school, and so on. 4 years, you are begin to talk, mommy, daddy, ABC. Okay, you continue to the adolescence age, which is about from 14 years or so. From 14, that's the teenagers, and down to 18 is the adulthood, young adulthood. And from this adolescence, from 14 years, is where you observe puberty, changes that occur in the body of a teenager. I don't want us to go deep into that because that is a topic on its own. Then you get into the young adulthood, 18 years old. Changes continues. To middle age of 40 years, changes continues. Early old age, about 50, I think about 50, 60 years, changes. So I'm not even, so guys, why I said I gave it to you as an assignment so that you come and teach me. I don't want to start giving you the job. Early old age, then later old age, and so on. So these are the changes that occur. Developmental changes. It's supposed to even be stages, developmental stages. Please correct it in your book, not changes. Developmental stages, not changes. Developmental stages in man. So these are the stages in man, but of course you know that these stages come with changes. Is that good? All right. Thanks and stay safe. So discuss the 4 developmental stages. Stages, please, stages, but there are still changes. Developmental stages in man, stated above. So make the correction, developmental stages in man. All right, thank you, and God bless you.